Have you ever stood in front of something you wanted and felt your stomach turn the moment you saw the price? That small glance at the tag, that quick mental calculation, that instant wave of anxiety. You think it is practical wisdom, you think it is financial responsibility, but what if I told you that this single unconscious habit is the metaphysical force field keeping abundance locked outside your reality? This is not about reckless spending. This is about the invisible law governing your entire financial existence. Neville Goddard learned this the hard way, and the man who taught him was not gentle about it. His name was Abdullah, an Ethiopian mystic, a Kabbalist rabbi who understood the Bible as a psychological blueprint for human consciousness. And Abdullah had one rule about money that sounds absurd until you understand the metaphysics behind it. Ignore the price or do not buy, not because price does not matter, but because the act of checking it confirms a state of consciousness that repels the very wealth you seek. Today you will learn why this rule is not symbolic. It is mechanical. It is the difference between those who manifest abundance effortlessly and those who struggle despite working twice as hard. By the end of this transmission, you will understand the metaphysical danger of lack-based thinking and how to permanently shift into the vibration of opulence. This is the Goddard Code. Stay with me. Let us begin with the uncomfortable truth. Most people do not have a money problem. They have a consciousness problem. They have been conditioned since childhood to believe that scarcity is the default state of reality, that checking the price is wisdom, that hesitation is prudence, that desire without immediate means is foolishness. This programming runs so deep that it feels like common sense. Your parents taught you to compare prices. Your teachers told you to live within your means. Society built entire industries around the psychology of discount hunting and coupon clipping, and all of it reinforced one core belief. You are separate from abundance. You must earn it. You must deserve it. You must calculate whether you can afford it before you can even imagine owning it. But here is what Neville Goddard discovered under Abdullah's ruthless tutelage. Every time you check a price tag with anxiety, you are not being responsible. You are praying to the god of lack. You are bowing before an invisible altar that says, I am not enough. The universe does not hear your words. It hears your state. And your state in that moment is poverty, consciousness, wearing the mask of practicality. Abdullah understood this with a clarity that terrified his students. He knew that the Bible was not a history book. It was an instruction manual for consciousness. And when Isaiah declared, come buy wine and milk without money and without price, he was not speaking poetry. He was teaching metaphysical law. The inner state of having precedes the outer condition of possession. Always. Without exception. Neville spent years in Barbados watching wealthy colonists live with an ease he could not comprehend. They never checked prices. They never hesitated. They moved through the world as if abundance was their birthright. And it infuriated him because he did not yet understand that their wealth was not the cause of their ease. Their ease was the cause of their wealth. They had claimed a state of consciousness first. The money followed. This is the block you must confront. Not your bank account, your identity. Not your budget, your vibrational frequency. You have been taught to let external conditions dictate internal states. Abdullah taught the reverse. Control the inner and the outer has no choice but to conform. This is not faith, this is physics. The moment you flinch at a price, you have just voted for scarcity. You have just told infinite intelligence that you are a person who must check, a person who must worry, a person who must calculate permission before desire. And the universe is a perfect mirror. It will give you more experiences that confirm exactly that identity. Now, let me tell you the story that changes everything, the Quibble Story. Neville Goddard recounted this teaching dozens of times because it cut so deep into his own transformation. He was studying under Abdullah in New York during the 1930s. Still broke, still struggling, still carrying the immigrant mentality that said work harder, save more, sacrifice now, enjoy later. One evening, Abdullah invited him to a dinner party at the home of a man named Quibble, a wealthy man, the kind of wealth that made Neville uncomfortable. When they arrived, the host offered wine. Abdullah accepted, but when the bottle was presented, Abdullah glanced at the label and immediately refused it. He looked at Quibble and said, I do not drink cheap wine. Neville was mortified. The room went silent. Quibble was a gracious host, but the insult was undeniable. Abdullah did not flinch, he did not apologize, he simply waited. And Quibble, without a word, went to his cellar and returned with a bottle that cost 10 times more. Abdullah accepted it with a nod as if this was the only logical outcome. Later that night, Neville confronted him. "How could you do that? How could you embarrass me? How could you insult a man offering you hospitality?" And Abdullah looked at him with those unblinking eyes and said, "I did not insult him. I honored myself. And until you learn to do the same, you will always be poor." This was not arrogance. This was metaphysical precision. Abdullah was demonstrating a state of consciousness. He was living in the end. He was not pretending to be wealthy. He was not faking confidence. He had internalized a reality where cheap wine was simply not part of his experience. And because he refused to accept it in consciousness, he could not experience it in the outer world. Neville Goddard later said this story haunted him for months because he realized he had been doing the exact opposite his entire life, accepting less, checking prices, grateful for scraps, and every act of acceptance was a prayer for more scarcity. Abdullah was showing him that manifestation is not about affirmations, it is about refusal. You must refuse to occupy the state of lack even for a single moment. This is where most people fail. They try to manifest wealth while still identifying as poor. They visualize abundance while checking their bank balance with fear. They affirm prosperity while hesitating at the checkout line, and they wonder why nothing changes. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot be in two states simultaneously. You are either in lack or you are in abundance. The bridge between them is not action, it is assumption. Abdullah taught Neville that assumption is the only creative power. Not hope, not belief, assumption. When you assume you are wealthy, you do not ask if you can afford it. When you assume you are loved, you do not beg for attention. When you assume you are healthy, you do not obsess over symptoms. The assumption becomes the bridge, and the world rearranges itself to confirm it. So what is the remedy? How do you break the price-checking habit when every fiber of your conditioning screams that it is irresponsible not to? The answer lies in understanding what Neville Goddard called living in the end. This is not visualization. This is not positive thinking. This is identity shift at the deepest level of consciousness. Living in the end means you stop asking how. You stop negotiating with circumstances. You stop checking if the bridge is built before you walk across it. You assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and you remain faithful to that assumption regardless of what the senses report. This is the law. This is the only law. Everything else is commentary. Let me be specific. When you want something, the natural impulse is to look at your current reality and measure the gap. I want this, but I cannot afford it. I want this, but I am not qualified. I want this, but it is not available. Every one of those statements is a denial of the law, because the law does not operate in the realm of facts. It operates in the realm of states. You do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. And what you are is determined solely by the state you occupy in imagination. If you occupy the state of someone who checks prices with anxiety, you will continue to experience financial limitation. If you occupy the state of someone who moves through the world as if abundance is inevitable, you will experience abundance. The outer world has no choice. It is effect, not cause. Abdullah demonstrated this ruthlessly. He refused cheap wine because in his inner world, cheap wine did not exist. Not as a concept, not as a possibility. He had so completely fused with the state of refinement and opulence that anything less could not even register as an option. And this is the secret most people miss. You do not fake it until you make it. You become it until the world reflects it. Neville Goddard explained this through the biblical principle of I am. When Moses asked God for his name, the answer was, I am that I am. Not I will be, not I was, I am. Present tense, eternal state. And Neville revealed that I am is the name of God within you. It is your consciousness. It is your creative power. And whatever you attach to I am, you create. If you say I am broke, you are invoking the creative force to produce more experiences of being broke. If you say I am unworthy, you are commanding the universe to confirm unworthiness. But if you say I am abundant, I am loved, I am successful, and you feel it is true in this moment, regardless of evidence, then you have just issued a decree that cannot be revoked. This is not metaphor. This is mechanics. Consciousness is the only reality. Everything else is shadow. And you are not manipulating an external deity. You are rearranging your own assumptions about identity. The moment the assumption solidifies, the outer world begins to shift, sometimes instantly, sometimes gradually, but always inevitably. So the remedy is this: stop checking the price. Not because you will spend recklessly, but because the act of checking is a statement of identity. It says, I am someone who must be cautious. I am someone who might not be able to afford this. And that assumption becomes law. Instead, assume abundance. Assume opulence. Assume that everything you desire is already yours in consciousness, and the physical plane is simply catching up. Let us bring this into your life right now. How do you apply Abdullah's rule in a world of credit cards and bank statements and real financial consequences? This is where most people stumble. They hear the teaching and think it sounds beautiful but impractical. Let me show you why that is a misunderstanding of the entire framework. Joseph Murphy, a contemporary of Neville Goddard and student of the same metaphysical tradition, taught that your subconscious mind accepts whatever you impress upon it as true. It does not argue. It does not question. It simply outpictures your dominant mental state. If your dominant state is lack, your subconscious will find ways to create more lack. If your dominant state is abundance, your subconscious will orchestrate circumstances that bring abundance. This is not magic. This is psychology meeting metaphysics. Your reticular activating system filters reality based on what you believe is true. If you believe you cannot afford something, you will unconsciously avoid opportunities that would make it possible. You will dismiss ideas. You will sabotage negotiations. You will accept less because your inner conviction says that is all you deserve. But when you shift the assumption, everything changes. Suddenly you notice opportunities you walked past 100 times. Suddenly people offer help you did not ask for. Suddenly money arrives from unexpected sources. Not because the universe magically handed it to you, but because you stopped blocking it with the vibration of lack. Here is the practical exercise Neville Goddard would give. Before you go to sleep tonight, enter the state of the wish fulfilled. Do not visualize yourself getting money. Visualize yourself already having it. Feel the relief. Feel the freedom. Feel the ease of moving through the world without financial anxiety. Do not think about how it will happen. Do not plan the steps. Simply dwell in the feeling until you fall asleep. This is what Neville called a mental diet. You are deliberately choosing which thoughts and feelings you will feed your subconscious. Most people have a mental diet of worry, doubt, and complaint. And they wonder why their life reflects worry, doubt, and complaint. You must become ruthless about what you allow into your inner world. William Blake, the poet and mystic who deeply influenced Neville's theology, wrote that man is all imagination, and God is man and exists in us and we in him. This was not poetry. This was mystical truth. Your imagination is not a toy. It is the creative force of the universe localized in you. And when you imagine from the end, when you feel it as already done, you are using the same power that created galaxies. Now let me address the fear. What if I ignore the price and go into debt? What if I spend recklessly and destroy my life? This question reveals the confusion. Abdullah did not teach reckless spending. He taught inner conviction. He did not tell Neville to buy things he could not afford. He told him to stop occupying the state of someone who could not afford them. There is a massive difference. When you truly live in the end, you do not need to force outer actions. The outer actions flow naturally from the inner state. If you are genuinely in the consciousness of wealth, you will make wise decisions effortlessly. You will attract resources. You will receive ideas. You will be guided. But if you are in the consciousness of lack and you try to fake abundance through spending, you will only create chaos. This is why the work is always inner. The outer is automatic. Fix the state and the behavior fixes itself. Neville Goddard proved this repeatedly. He manifested trips to Barbados when he had no money. He manifested career opportunities when he had no connections. He manifested everything by refusing to accept lack as his identity. So here is your metaphysical resolution. You are not a beggar in the universe. You are not waiting for permission. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. You are the operant power. You are consciousness itself, wearing a human form. And the moment you accept this fully, everything shifts. Abdullah's rule was never about wine. It was about selfhood. It was about refusing to betray your divine identity, even for a moment of social comfort. It was about understanding that every choice you make is either a vote for abundance or a vote for lack. And the universe is counting votes every second. When you check a price with fear, you vote for lack. When you hesitate before desire, you vote for unworthiness. When you accept less than what you truly want, you vote for limitation. But when you assume you are already the person who has it, when you feel it as done, when you move through the world as if abundance is your birthright, then you have cast the only vote that matters. The conclusion is this: you do not need to fix the world. You need to fix your assumption about the world. You do not need more money. You need the consciousness of wealth. You do not need better circumstances. You need a better state. And the moment you claim that state with the same certainty that Abdullah refused cheap wine, the entire structure of your life will reorganize itself to match. This is not theory. This is the testimony of everyone who has ever lived this law. Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy, the mystics, the prophets, the ones who moved mountains while others complained about the weight of stones. They all knew the same secret. Consciousness is the only reality. Change the inner, and the outer must follow. If this teaching has moved something in you, then you are ready for more. This channel exists to decode the deepest metaphysical truths and make them actionable in your modern life. Subscribe now and join a community of manifestors who are done playing small, who are done checking price tags on their dreams, who are ready to live as the gods they were always meant to be. And let me leave you with the words Neville Goddard spoke over and over until his final breath. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and observe the route that your attention follows. Do not try to make it happen. Let it happen. You are the creator. You are the operant power. You are I am. Now go and create your world.